Trump's Ukraine envoy has a plan to end the war that Putin may revel in. I am very pleased to nominate General Keith Kellogg to serve as assistant to the president and special envoy for Ukraine and Russia, Trump wrote on his Truth Social channel. Together, we will secure peace through strength and make America and the world safe again. By appointing Keith Kellogg as his special envoy to Ukraine, Donald Trump has also chosen a very specific pre-announced plan for the thorniest foreign policy issue on his plate. Kellogg, Trump's 80-year-old former national security advisor, has laid out his peace plan in some detail, writing for the America First Policy Institute in April. It begins calling the war an avoidable crisis that, due to the Biden administration's incompetent policies, has entangled America in an endless war. In short, a ceasefire will freeze the front lines and both sides will be forced to the negotiating table. But it is in the longer details where it all gets complex. Kellogg spends most time berating Biden's actions, saying that his administration gave too little lethal aid too late. He says Trump's decision to give the first lethal aid to Ukraine in 2018 conveyed the strength needed to confront Putin, and that Trump's soft approach to the Kremlin head, not demonizing him like Biden has, will enable him to strike a deal. Kellogg says more weapons should have been given before the Russian invasion and immediately afterwards to enable Ukraine to win. But that's when the plan, which CNN has reported that Trump's soon-to-be national security advisor is considering, stops being to Ukraine's liking. Kellogg says the United States doesn't need involvement in another conflict, and its own stocks of weaponry have suffered from aiding Ukraine, leaving the country potentially exposed in any conflict with China over Taiwan. He says Ukraine's NATO membership, in truth a very distant prospect, tentatively offered to Kyiv in symbolic solidarity, should be put on hold indefinitely, in exchange for a comprehensive and verifiable peace deal with security guarantees. Foremost, the plan says it should become a formal US policy to seek a ceasefire and negotiated settlement. The front lines would be frozen by a ceasefire and a demilitarized zone imposed. For agreeing to this, Russia would get limited sanctions relief and full relief only when a peace deal is signed that is to Ukraine's liking. A levy on Russian energy exports would pay for Ukraine's reconstruction. Ukraine would not be asked to give up on reclaiming occupied territory, but it would agree to pursue it through diplomacy alone. It accepts this would require a future diplomatic breakthrough, which probably will not occur before Putin leaves office. It is fetchingly simple and swift in its approach, but it lacks an accommodation of what Moscow will demand and has used the diplomatic process for in the past, to cynically pursue military advances. The freezing of the front lines will precipitate a very violent few months ahead as Moscow seeks to take as much ground as it can. The Kremlin has in the past ignored ceasefires and pursued its territorial objectives, often blankly denying that it is. A demilitarized zone would likely need to be policed, possibly putting NATO troops or soldiers from other non-aligned nations in between the two sides. That will be hard to maintain and staff, to say the least. It would be enormous, spanning hundreds of miles of border and a massive financial investment. Arming Ukraine to the extent it can stop present and future Russian advances will also be tough. The plan notes the United States manufactures 14,155 artillery rounds a month, which Ukraine can use up in just 48 hours. Paradoxically, Kellogg wants the US to arm Ukraine more, yet also accepts they really can't.